Hi, this is Miss Litton, and this is Monday morning, and we're getting ready to kind of finish up our last actual lecture. In chapter 36, I'm going to come back to that in just a minute, and if we have extra time, you can review, and then you'll take your quiz. I want to talk to you about next time, because I'll be on campus, but not on campus. I'll be at meetings all day. And so what you're going to do on that day... what you're going to do on the day is you're going to do a poll over mass extinctions, and that'll be through Google Classroom. And you can do that with your teams. I want to keep those teams small so you're more vested in the process, just like we talked about before. So just work with teams of 2, maximum 3 on that day. And then following that, there'll also be a link. It's a Google form, Introduction to Biomimicry. As long as you're honest and thoughtful in there, there's just no reason why you wouldn't get 100%. It's more like just to take your temperature on what you know about biomimicry or what you think about certain things. So just be thoughtful in your responses, and it is surefire 100%. Then when I see you again on Friday, we're going to be working through hyperdoc. Do you know what a hyperdoc is? You use them all the time. You just don't call them a hyperdoc. You know what a hyperdoc is? Anybody? It's usually referred to, we do it in Google Drive. If you have a link on a piece of paper, that is a hyperdoc, because that link is what? Hyperlink. Yeah. So through the, you'll see it on Friday, but you'll work with, same idea, 2, maximum 3 people, and spend about 1 billion hours working on it, but you'll look at some different images and you'll have some reflections about that images, and you'll learn about what biomimicry is, and we're going to watch a video about it. It's kind of interesting, like 20 minutes. And we're going to do that on Friday, and then we have looking at a real world example where biomimicry was implemented. We'll do that on Tuesday, and we have a campus tour then we'll do that goes with it, where we kind of look at our school and think, how are we good biomimics here at the school or not, make some evaluations, and then that is it for us for the rest of the year. And before I go any further, tell your bio buddy, have you started studying for your final?
Look, I've been busy with all this because I've literally been losing my mind over honors English.
Okay, and I'm going to tell you, the sooner you start on that, the better off you're going to be. You can pretty much guarantee every 7th period belongs to you from here on out, because AP takes their actual final on Thursday this week, and I won't be here available on Tuesday or Wednesday for them, and every day I'll be in here going over things to get you ready for your multiple, so just plan on that. And if you can't make it, of course, I'll record it and put that up there. Okay. If I were going to be strategic, I would look back, first of all, at my unit grades and look to see what were the units I was weakest on this semester. It's not over the whole year, it's just this semester. What were the units I was weakest on? I would go visit those. And the best thing to do, because you know it's going to be a multiple choice test, the best thing to do is to take multiple choice tests. That is the best way to study for it, the best way to study for it. And where do you have access to multiple choice tests? At the back of your textbook and online. But those are more valued as an indicator of how well you understand it. If you take just a minute, you have some tremendous notes. Yes?
Oh, I was just wondering, how much is the final?
It's usually worth about 200 points. Twice a regular exam. I don't know because I haven't written it yet. Yeah. But it's usually twice a normal exam. You have created with your bio buddies great notes that you have written, and you have images and pictures, and just skimming through those is a really good way, you know, especially the areas that you're weakest in. Skim through those and re-familiarize yourself with those different topics. You'll be surprised how much will come back to you once you revisit it. Okay. Tell your bio buddy, when is the next time you're going to attempt to study for your exam? So that wasn't my class, right? So I'm Okay? All right. So we in this oh, whoops, I just froze you. I'm sorry. I'm coming back. In this last unit, we picked up on ways that we decrease biodiversity, but I want to make sure in your brain, the first thing we talked about in chapter 36 was the resources that we use. And this is going to help us in our understanding of biomimicry as well. But what are some of the resources that we use? Land, water, food, energy, minerals. Perfect. You got those down. And then can man screw up all of those? Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Okay. Then we talked about the next topic was the impact on biodiversity and things that would decrease biodiversity in our need to get those 5 things. So the first thing we talked about was habitat loss. That was the #1 contributor. Blue tells Slate, what do you know about habitat loss? Go ahead. Okay, that's it. Second topic was exotic species. How do, and Slate, you're in charge of this, how do exotic species disrupt ecosystems, and give them an example of that? Go ahead. Okay, and then third we talked about pollution, and there were a lot of different things about pollution or ways we could pollute. So on this one, can you just ping pong back and forth? Blue will go first, name a pollutant, and just see if you can work through all of them without even looking at your notes. See what you can just recall. Go ahead. All right. So we said habitat loss. When we look at extinctions that take place, which decrease biodiversity, how often is habitat loss a part of that extinction? 85% of the time. Habitat loss is a part of that extinction. And then for exotic species, how often are exotic species involved? 50%. And then we have it again, when we talk about pollution, it's about how many? 24. And then a little less than that, 17% of the time is overexploitation. So could Slate, before I say a word about it, before you even look at your notes, what do you think it means to overexploit something? Just logically, tell them what you think it means. And here's somebody who wants to tell you something. I am an ocelot. You people overexploited me, and you are the cause of my mass extinction, just for the economic value. Oh, he's so disappointed in you. Me too. Tatanka. Us too. Stop. So when it's supply and demand. Those of you who understand economics, right? It's supply and demand. So if there's something of value, then people want to go and gather that wherever it is so they can sell it. But by them gathering it, then there are fewer numbers, which then makes it even more valuable, which then makes people want to get it even more, which makes it even more valuable. And it sends it down a vortex of extinction. It's just it's an example of positive feedback. So for instance, gathering these tropical fish, the easiest way to gather those fish sometimes is they just go with cyanide in little like ketchup bottles, and they squirt that in the water. That stuns all the fish, makes them easier to gather, and also destroys the coral. And the coral is an environment for a lot of different species of fish. So now you're dealing with the #1 cause of extinction, which is what? Habitat loss. So in the process of overexploiting the fish, you're also causing habitat loss. Okay, So on your notes where it says overexploitation, involved in 17% of the cases, defined overexploitation occurs when removal of individuals from the wild population drastically reduces their numbers. Drastically reduces their numbers. And feedback, rarity causes a positive feedback cycle. Fewer specimens left, the more valuable they become. And then I gave you some examples there that Slate wants to tell you about. Go ahead, Slate, tell them about those examples. Tell them what they've done. How many of you have fish as part of your protein source? How many of you use fish as part? I do too. Just made some tuna last night. I don't know if that gets fish. But what do you put in your tuna? Do you make tuna? Do you put mayonnaise in it? Do you put onions in it? Do you put pickles in it? I put pepperoncinis in it. You know, it's good that way. Try it. Okay, you're like gross, Miss Lit. Fish stocks. So one way to catch fish is you take basically a chain link fence and they drag it across the ocean floor. How would that help them catch fish to drag that chain link fence across the ocean floor?
You get the fish, right?
Yeah, it stirs everything up. So here you can see before dragging, after dragging. Okay? Again, same idea when we talked about mining, where you just go through and scrape it and scalp it. You know, you're doing that same thing. You're disrupting that entire ecosystem. Another method is something called purse seine fishing. This is like in Nemo, swim down, right? Where they take a big net and just pull up, and then once they get it up onto the boat, they go, oh yeah, we can't catch these, and they throw it back. But at this point, you've already completely disrupted its homeostasis, its swim bladder sticking out its mouth. It's not going to survive it. No, you're not bringing it in. No, nobody's going to check you. Fish and Wildlife won't fine you because you're not bringing that in and saying you're going to sell it. But you've already killed it the very fact that you brought it up out of the water. And that's called purse seine fishing. You also might get ones that are, the wrong size as well. So on fish stocks are being depleted by overfishing. Huge trawling nets capture bottom-dwelling fish. This has been called the marine equivalent of clear-cutting trees. And then I gave you an example here. Purse seine fishing surrounds tuna, which is what I had yesterday for lunch. And big nets draw them up like strings of a purse. Okay. Your last main cause is disease, and it's involved in 3% of all extinctions. Due to encroachment of humans on their habitat, wildlife has been exposed to new pathogens from domestic animals. Amphibians are especially susceptible to pollution. Why is that, blue people? Are they talking about their thin, moist skin?
Oh, yeah, like that.
Because it can go right across their skin. Yeah. Okay, and I would like you to be today something fun you did this weekend. But I'm going to remove you first. Something fun you did this weekend that I could hear about. Can you get in? Yes, you can. Santa Monica, Disneyland. Study. Paintball. No fun for me. Shopping. I always love shopping. Shopping's so fun. Walk with, what is that? Aww. That's sweet. Is it a long one?
We went like 5 miles, so yeah. My mom's trying to do 1,000 this year, so I'm just trying to help her out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Who was swimming? It was like not even warm ever. Saturday afternoon, did you get rain Saturday? We got rain yesterday. I don't even know what the one question is. It's probably super easy. Is it super easy?
Oh my gosh, it's going so
Pokemon? Somebody's playing Pokemon? What?
Are you serious? What?
Yay, Wendy. All right, so now we've talked about what kinds of things we like to take from the earth. We've talked about, in the process of taking those things from the earth, how we can destroy other organisms. We've talked about the 5 main causes. And now we're going to talk about why should we care that we destroy those organisms? Why should we care that we cause extinctions? So the big picture here is that biodiversity maintains a healthy biosphere and provides both direct and indirect values, things that you can obviously see. So if it's a direct value, it falls usually under 3 different areas. It's very apparent, recognized immediately. So we need organisms for medicine. Most of our medicines come from living organisms. We get them from living organisms. Okay? We need it for medicine, we need it for agriculture, we need it for consumption, we need it for food. Those are the 3 big direct values. So we're going to start with the first one, medicinal value. So go on your notes. And it says medicinal value. Most U.S. prescription drugs were originally derived from living organisms. And if you look at the next part, based on the past rate of drug discovery, there are perhaps how many more drugs in the rainforest that we could discover? 328. Now, how many of you know somebody who has to take some sort of medicine every single day? Raise your hand. Okay, look around the room. We all know somebody probably who has to take a medicine every single day. Now, if they don't take that medicine, could it be life-threatening to them? Raise your hand if you know somebody who takes a medicine. Okay, so I have found that people, once they experience knowing somebody who needs something like that, they tend to be kinder and more thoughtful because they're experiencing it, right? And when you think about it, if you've ever seen somebody sick in the hospital that you've cared deeply about, who's had to take some sort of medicine or kept them alive, you know how important that medicine is to them. There are 328 more drugs out there. I mean, have a Jimmy Kimmel moment, right? And think about it. If it's your child or your wife or your husband, your partner that needs that drug, you do just about anything to get that for them. And there are drugs out there that are yet to be discovered that could save somebody's life. And the scary thing, the terrifying thing to me is we're changing the environment so quickly, we're wiping out potential things that could save us. So you don't have to be save the earth, don't shave your legs, wear, granola shoes, whatever. You don't have to be that kind of, mentality. You don't have to have that. You could do it purely out of selfishness. Pure self-centered adoration, okay? You could say, it's important for me to save these species because they might be the key to some life-saving drug. And then if you're a money-making kind of person, they have about $147 billion worth of value out there, okay? So 328 more drugs likely to be found in the tropical rainforest with $147 billion value. Oldest bio buddy, can you give them some examples of some drugs that have been discovered? Go. It's right there. See.
I read about that.
All right. So medicinal value. that alone should be enough to maintain biodiversity. That should be an important enough for you right there. But if that's not enough, let's consider the agricultural value. Why? Because we eat plants, right? We eat animals and we eat plants and fungi, usually, mushrooms, right? So our crops tend to be of very singular genetic identity. And if something comes along and a fungus evolves of some sort, a mildew of some sort comes along, and we have to Irish potato famine it, if it wipes out our crops, if a disease or a parasite comes like that, and if we don't have in our back pocket of our genes some other varieties that aren't out there, that something's not adapted to, if we don't have sources of biodiversity in our back pocket, then that can end up wiping out our food source. But more importantly, well, not more importantly, just as importantly, for us to get food from our crops, they have to get what? They have to start with a P. Pollinated. Okay? So not only is the crop in and of itself important for us for food, the pollinators are important. And anything that would be a pest on the pollinator could be important, right? We need to maintain the biodiversity for those reasons, because we need them to help keep our crops. We can't protect them every moment of the day, right? So things can go out there and get them. So we have natural predators of those pests to our crops. And things that you don't think about, like bats can be pollinators. And you need those bats. You don't see that too much, like obviously bats don't do wheat crops, right? It's not like, oh, look at the bats. It's not like that. But in the tropical rainforest it is, and butterflies and moths that are doing some pollination out there. We don't want to wipe them out either, because they're keeping those flowers in the tropical rainforest pollinated. Locally, it's all about the honeybee for us. All about the honeybee. This should be of concern for you. The maintenance of the honeybee. Now, I've told you before, if you want to make money, figure out a way to make more what? Water. Okay, make more. Yeah, print it. The honeybee, you want to make some money? Protect the honeybee. Because we have billions of dollars dependent upon the honeybee. And the problem is, there's something going on called colony collapse disorder, where there is a mite right here. Can you see it on him? Mm-hmm. And that mite, if you look right here, in 2010, scientists reported a possible cause of colony collapse disorder, a rapid die-off of millions of honeybees in many countries since 2006. One culprit is thought to be the blood-sucking varroa mite, the red dots. It remains the honeybee's most devastating pest worldwide. There are people who have honeybees. They keep them in there. They have hives, and they literally load those hives on trucks at night, drive to people's farms, unload the hives so that they will go and play all day out where it needs to be pollinated. Then they come back into the hives and they load them on trucks and drive. They can't get to everybody's crops. You want to make some money? Go be a honeybee farmer. Okay, because there's a strong, real worry about how that will impact us. Because if we don't have honey, can you imagine trying to self-man doing pollinating everything? It's not going to happen. Okay? We need the bees to go out there and do that work. So that is a strong concern as well. So on your biological pests are economically important because replacements when pests are pesticide resistant. And examples, domesticated bees pollinate over $10 billion worth of food crops. $10 billion worth of food crops annually. And tracheal mites have wiped out over 20% of the population. So we need biodiversity because we need wild bee strains that if these guys get wiped out, we have some other ones. All right, and then the next one is consumptive value. The cultivation of yes?
Under agricultural value, under A?
Genes.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome. Consumptive value. The cultivation of crops and domestication of animals, farming, have been successful. So we grow a lot of crops, we grow up animals. We need to look at aquaculture. Aquaculture. Right now, we're going out and harvesting all the wild species. A lot of the fish we eat is just pulled out of the ocean. Remember I talked to you about that example. It's not like you see, you know, a cow walking by and go, oh, look, a wild cow, and kill it and eat it for your family. All of that is domesticated. There are people who take care of that for you, grow up the cow, harvest the cow, and package it for you. But we're not doing that enough with the fish, and we are decimating fish species, decimating them. And so we need to look into that. And where they have basically underwater, it's not even like inside factories, but they'll go into certain areas in the ocean and they'll grow up in these huge areas, different fish, you know, basically still kept in the wild. But you know how like you put chickens in a pen and they grow them up, which can be kind of gross if you've ever been to a chicken farm. It's similar to that, but at least they're growing up, they're not taking them out of the wild, they are growing them up, much like they might grow up timber, trees to harvest in order to build things with it. So it's not like we're going out and cutting down other forests, we're actually growing up forests and harvesting those purposefully, not taking them from the wild. So that would be the consumptive value. And I think I gave you everything for that. And I think there, oh no, let's get that part. I'll go right here. All I can stand. Oh. Notice this word right here is not characterized by. Okay. Check with your bio buddy because only 12 of you got it right. Show your bio buddy your slide. Discuss.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Reread. Did you misread it? Yes, no, maybe so. You're barely holding it together. You look like you're tired.
I'm so trying.
And then 10 of you got this one. Okay, all right, we won't erase it. Society doesn't always appreciate the services that wild species provide naturally and without fanfare. 9 of you said pollinators may be valuable, but that doesn't mean any other species also provide us. And you also said what? You said 4 of you said society could easily replace wild pollinators. Can we easily replace wild pollinators? No. Okay. Check with your bio buddy. Did they get that right? Did they struggle a little bit? You're all struggling a little bit. You're all so tired. Are you all so tired?
I say we just don't even take the quiz.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Okay, so direct values. Okay. What are the 3 direct values? What was the first one? Medicine, agriculture, consumptive, MAC. The direct values, MAC. Okay? All right. Indirect values, these are things you're not going to notice as readily, that you're not going to think about, that are not going to be obvious. And a lot of these have to do, the first one has to do with We can't artificially create the different cycles we've learned about. We've learned about the carbon cycle, the nitrogen cycle, the phosphorus cycle, and I know the water cycle, right? Those are important, and when we disrupt those cause a lot of problems. So we can't artificially recreate those. So biochemical cycles, they contribute to the water, carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus cycles that we depend upon for fresh water, etc. All right, another one is waste disposal. This is an example of phytoremediation. Phytoremediation. This is where you use plants to fix the soil. So there could be wastewater that's in the area, and what they'll do, like you could take your, if you have gray water treatment or water treatment plants, they can water with heavy nitrogen water that has a lot of nitrogen in it and nitrates in it, and then plant plants that require a lot of nitrogen, and then they can remove that from the soil for you instead of using some toxic chemical or whatever to try to normalize that. Just use a plant to do that for you. And decomposers can break down organic matter and other waste into nutrients used by producers. Decomposition in nature is more economical and complete than sewage treatment. Have we lived on this earth that long? No. Have other organisms lived here a lot longer?
Yes.
Do they have sewage treatment plants? No. Somehow they managed to do it with what they have, right? So like we're the only species that has to build whole buildings and make chemicals to deal with our sewage. So is there another way we can go about doing this? Another one is provision of fresh water. Most terrestrial organisms need fresh water, and forests are sponges that hold and release water over time. Having those organisms out there prevent soil erosion. Intact ecosystems naturally retain soil and prevent erosion. Deforestation results in silt that fills reservoirs and denudes hillsides, breaks them down. Another thing is having species out there helps regulate your climate, so it's not so hot. Trees provide natural shade and natural air conditioning. Globally, tropical rainforests act as a sink for carbon dioxide. When the trees are burned, the carbon dioxide is released back into the atmosphere. And last but not least, by keeping these environments intact, ecotourism, it's how you can make some money. 100 million people spend about $4 billion a year on fees, travel, lodging, food to enjoy the natural environment. So maintain them. It's a way to make money. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 16.
12.
You ready? It's 9. Now, one of you needs to review the direct value of biodiversity. One of you needs to review the indirect value of biodiversity. Whoever was closest to me gets to pick. Go. Yeah, in your own words.
Medicine, the agriculture, and the consumption. So like I say, like there's medicines that are anti-disorder and it's agriculture, which is like the crops are being devastated by like different viruses, such as like
consumptive value because we eat and so we don't we eat them.
Guys, this is your last box of notes of the year. Everything else is done. It's going to be done through kind of more independent hyperdoc. Okay. This is it. This is it. You and me, babe. You're gonna miss me when I'm gone. All right, 26 of you got it right, and 2 of you struggled. Find the struggler. Are you sitting next to them? Is this struggle real for them? Can you guide them?
That was my bad. That was my bad.
Or did you mark? All right, here is your last set of notes. All right, when we were Essential Understanding 14 said describe direct and indirect values of biodiversity, which we just did. And then the last half of that said, and characteristics of a sustainable society. So a sustainable society is one in which you're able to provide the same goods and services for future generations of human beings as it does now. For future generations of human beings as it does now. When they show future movies, like movies in the future, when they make movies, what does it always show the earth like in the future? Super destroyed, either like technology has taken over and the machines run the world. What? Wally. Okay. What else? What else does it show? Really big skyscrapers, often destroyed environments, right? A second world somewhere else.
Like
Yes.
sometimes they do have ones where like they figured it out, like how to protect the earth.
How to protect the earth,
That's
yeah.
very rare.
Very rare. I agree. It's doom and gloom. And I don't know if any of you have ever lived in a city. I mean, this I would not consider a city, right? We don't worry about pollution here. Some of you have, where you live, and we're not exposed to it. It's always nice, right? It's usually always nice where we go. And if you go, not just here in the United States, but around the world, where there's high population in small areas, where they walk around with masks on their face because the pollution is so bad, that cannot possibly be healthy for you, right? It cannot possibly be healthy. And if you're living in that city, creating those toxic gases into the air, right now it might be contained right there. But those gases, gentlemen, cannot perpetually be contained within those areas. There are no walls, right? There are no walls in the atmosphere to keep things from moving from one country to another country. There are no walls in the ocean to keep waste and toxins from one area where it's getting polluted from other areas. It's going to eventually get here. Okay? It is inescapable. There is no way to prevent it. The only way to prevent it is to what? Stop doing it. We're already creating these pollutants. If we continue on this pathway, there is an inevitability to it. We talked about fossil fuels. What's going to happen eventually? We are going to what? Run out. What are we going to do? What are we doing now in order to anticipate that? So sustainable society, we want to keep things nice, and fix what we've already screwed up. Now, if you look, the big red arrows represent heat, and the purple arrows represent recycling. And oldest BioBuddy, talk about human society as currently with the red arrows representing heat, and think about what heat does, and then the purple is recycling. Go ahead.
Heat is like but a third of it goes out to the products. 2/3 of it goes out to waste energy, and then it just there's very little recycling. Small areas, not much that is
All right. If we're going to summarize our problems today, and here's some pollution over in China. If we're going to summarize today's society, land is being altered for human purposes. Land is being altered. When you look at an estuary, we don't want it to go through its natural cycling and recycling. We want it to take our farm runoff when we're farming, not in its natural processes. We are altering it. Our current agriculture requires large inputs of non-renewable energy. Large inputs of non-renewable energy to get the products we want out of the ground. Most agriculture yield goes to feeding animals. Our domesticated animals, right? We are running out of an available supply of water. That to me seems kind of important, a little bit. We primarily use non-renewable energy, which contributes to global warming, as long as you think it exists. And then there's too much pollution. Too much pollution. Younger BioBuddy, if we're going to keep everything okay, talk about this. What's the difference between before and after besides the pollution in the background? Go ahead.
Maximum. We have renewable energy.
Okay, riddle me this. How many of you have had your trash cans too full, like where you couldn't even put all of the stuff in there when you, okay, right. Me too. And then do you go neighbor hopping where you try to throw it in other neighbors? That's why I would always send my boys out. Find somebody's trash can, throw it in there. And that the thing is so we generate a lot more waste than we should, right? I mean, I know I could cut back, right? Where do you think all that trash is going? Landfill, right? Landfill. Very little of it, I mean, you do recycle. I remember for a while here at this school, they did not take the recycling. We would bother to put it in the recycling, and the janitors just threw it. There was no room for it. So we pretended like we were recycling, but it just went back in the garbage. Like, what the hell? And so we need to think about how much just trash we generate. If it does cost me per my trash, like depending on what kind of trash cans, it costs me different amounts. But if it got really expensive, I would be really careful. Like water, when the water rates went up due to the drought, were you more careful about water?
Yeah.
In your water, I know my family was, because I was paying in the top tiers of water, and I'm like, stop taking damn long showers, make them shorter. And I would yell at them, right? Did your parents ever yell at you about how long your showers were?
Yeah.
Okay, no.
I take
I take really long showers. I can stand there. I can get lost in a shower. And the water is beating, and I'm just like, it feels good, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to get ready for school. I literally get lost in it. I could stand there for half an hour. I'm not kidding you. I know. I know.
You are dying.
I'm killing the earth. But listen to me. You and I both could be better about that. And we just don't think about it because we don't see our trash. If you think about our trash men usually come before you're even awake. It's like, get this trash out of here. We put out our trash cans, they're out there, and then your trash cans. We don't see the waste. If you had to drive by how much waste we generated, if you had to keep your trash in your backyard for a year, and then it got removed once a year, and you saw how much you generated, I bet you'd be better at it. But we don't even see our trash. We just generate it, jam it in a can, off it goes. So things like that, we need to figure out ways to be better recyclers, because clearly we are not. And we're on this together, okay? So instead we could use only renewable energy sources and stop consuming and wasting so many resources. So on characteristics of a sustainable society, use only renewable energy sources. Reuse heat and waste materials, and maximize recycling products. Oftentimes when we say who's successful, who's not successful, we base it all on what? Money. Gross national product. Now, when we say who's successful, think about it in these terms. When you look at people, okay? Now, can money buy you happiness?
Yes.
Sure. Nobody sat on a jet ski, right? So, it's just fun, right? What I'm saying is, I'm not saying money can't buy you happiness. It definitely can. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you about that. However, have you ever seen people who have a lot of money and who are not, over the long haul of their life, actually happy? Okay? So we can't value success of somebody's life. Like somebody will say to me, why don't you go do something else? Like, you could do this, you could do that, you could make so much money. Do you think I'm into it for the money? Do you think I teach you for the money?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Do you think I can make more money doing something else?
Oh, yeah.
For sure I could. I have great faith in myself that I could. But that's not why I picked teaching, right? I picked teaching. I really, truly love you guys. I care about you. I like the idea of education. I like science, and I like hoping you like science. I like to make you smarter. I like all that. I care about you more importantly as your person in your long haul. There's not any science that I could ever teach you in this year that is more important than your character in your life and the choices that you know how to make. I'm getting verklempt, okay? That's important to me. It's not because I want to be happy when I go home. I want to feel like I've done something. To teach is to touch a life appropriately. but what I'm saying is it's you need to think about when you go for your job, yeah, super fun to have lots of money, without a doubt, okay? Yay. All right? But are you happy with what you're going to do the rest of your life? Because every day you're going to probably get up unless you inherit, and that would be super fun, okay? But you're going to get up and you're going to go to a job, and you're going to need to be happy about it. Think about it the same way. Our gross national product, it's not just about the money the United States can generate. It's about our overall health, just like your own personal health, our overall health of our country. What are we doing to the environment we live in? What's going to happen to your children's environment and your grandchildren's environment? We need to look more than just the dollar. And the things are like index of sustainable economic welfare. Can we continue? Can this continue going? Look at genuine progress indicators. Look at things like the global quality of life, because even though money is going up overall globally, the quality of life and the conditions people are living in some areas are going down, 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 down. So we need to, oh, darn it, we don't need to do that. Okay? We need to figure out a way to be friends with this earth instead of continuing to destroy it so we can get out the resources we need. And that's really, when we go into our biodiversity, that's what we're going to really look at, is ways to make and contribute to a sustainable society by looking at the way organisms who have lived here for millions of years have managed to live and survive it, instead of the way we necessarily approach things. So on your assessing economic well-being and quality of life, don't just look at the GNP, the gross national product, to measure our quality of life. Include non-economic indicators like resource depletion and environmental damage. Resource depletion and environmental damage. And here is a question for you.
I'm so excited. I was too.
Guys, I didn't put those orange cards on your desk. Some AP students did. If you have an orange card, I noticed they were scattering those around.
Yeah, they can find some AP kids.
I wonder if she's almost like English. Staying.
I heard someone say that it's
Okay, 18 of you got that right. All right, now, next thing. You have about 20 minutes to study. I'll give you your quiz about quarter up. I want to give you a practice question to do. Okay? A practice problem. So, you're A.
Oh, okay.
You might want to get out a piece of paper and you want to have access to a calculator of some sort. And you know what? My Apper kids took the calculators. They didn't need to, but find a calculator. You won't be able to use your phone.
Wait, we won't be able to.
Well, no, because I can't see what you're getting on it. You see what I'm saying?
Not the graph, like no graph.
You can use a graphing calculator. I don't want you to use your phone as a calculator.
Phone. I thought you said your own calculator.
No, you can.
Like, I don't have a graph. Can you just split your paper?
All right. So, oh, sorry. Hope you're having a good day. I'm going to finish up here.